Well, hello folks. Today I'm going to show you how to build a personal progress diary using the Trongate framework. We're going to be doing it within the context of this site here, and you're going to have an admin panel. From this admin panel, you'll be able to log in and create diary entries. You'll have a date picker, all of that stuff. It's all going to be here, and you're going to end up being able to add this to this site here. And as you can see, I've got it so that the font looks like handwriting and stuff, just for a bit of fun, you know. So I'm going to show you how to do all of that stuff. I'm going to show you how to install templates. So as you can see, this is it on a mobile device. It looks kind of nice, you know. Here it is on an iPad mini. So I'm going to be giving you all of that stuff. I'm going to show you how to use the module market so that you can get templates like this free of charge. Everything here is free, by the way. It always will be. And to give you an idea of what's coming up, basically we'll have a secure admin panel. I'll show you how to do the diary records CRUD, and I'll show you how to do a template import. But best of all, no, and my alignment's messed up. Well, there we go. No third-party code. So all of the code here is Trongate code. You can use third-party stuff if you like, but it's not a part, or it's not something that we depend upon. And the reason why that's good is because it means that we have stability. Trongate is built with stability as a priority. That's what we value above everything else. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Are you ready to rock? Then let's go. Alright, for this project, I'm going to be using the Trongate desktop app. It's this little app down here. And this is available free of charge from trongate.io. Let me get it on the screen. It's trongate.io/download. This is free. It will always be free. There's not a professional level or anything like that. It's a free thing, okay? So head over there if you want to follow along. And I'm now going to just open this thing up, okay? So you can see that it says, please make sure you have PHP and your database up and running. So I'm going to use XAMPP for this. Now, XAMPP is available free of charge. I'll leave a link below or in the description, wherever it may be. And you can get XAMPP for Windows and Mac, Linux, you name it. You can probably even get it for the Raspberry Pi, who knows. If you've got another way of getting PHP and MySQL up and running, though, that's okay as well. But I'm just going to use this because it's easy. So I'll click Manage Servers and I'll start Apache. Now that's going to give me PHP. And then I'll start MySQL. And there we go. So we should have some green lights in just a moment, hopefully. There they are. Yep. And now we can pretty much just forget about this. Okay. So with that being done, now I'm going to click Create New App. And I'm going to choose New Trongate App. Now, you can give your app any name that you want. I'm going to call this one Fitness App, okay? But you can call it anything you want. Just avoid strange characters if you can. So I'll click Submit here. Now, it's going to ask you to enter a base URL. And I'm quite happy with the suggestion here. Just make sure you have a / at the end of the base URL. So I'll hit submit, and then I'm going to click here for the database connection details. Please go ahead and change them if you need to, but hopefully those details will be fine for most of you folks watching. Let's click submit. Then we're going to choose a location for the new app. Now for me, it's going to be inside htdocs. So just navigate to wherever it may be for you, and then click Create New App here. Then we're just going to generate new app. Alright, so now we can click View Your New App, and you'll be taken to a page that looks a bit like this. And if you look at the URL, you'll see the name of your app up there as part of the base URL. Okay. So now we're going to go back to the desktop app and we're going to create another new, well, not another, we're going to create a new module, and it's going to be a new Trongate module. Now, the module name, and this is in singular format, is going to be diary entry. Okay, that's the singular. And it's going to suggest a navigation label. Now, this is referring to the admin panel. Okay, so it's suggesting manage diary entries. I'm going to shorten that to just diary entries, but you can have it any way that you like. I'm going to just click submit, and then I'm going to choose an icon. Now, you can search around and find something that makes you feel good here, or else you can just search for something like book or something and hit search. And I think I'll go with this one. Okay, so now I'm going to add some properties. It's going to open up the properties builder. And I'm going to start with a date field. So I'm clicking date on the left side here. And I'm going to write in date created. Notice we've got a very useful autocomplete here. So we'll have date created, and then I'll have a variable character with entry headline. Okay, then I'll have a text area with entry body. So that's where the main article is going to go. Okay, so that'll do me. Now you can change some of these values if you want. So for example, if you wanted the entry headline to have a minimum length of, let's say, 10 characters, you could just click in here, change the number, click off. It's as easy as that, okay? So when you're happy, click Submit Properties, and then it's going to ask you to choose a URL column. Now that's really for people who are interested in things like search engine optimization. We're not going to bother with that in this video, but maybe in a future video we'll cover this. For the moment though, I'm going to just select the empty option, okay? And I'm going to order by date created descending. You'll see what that means in just a minute. So let's generate new module. There it goes. And there we are. Now if we click view module, it's going to open up this admin panel here. And from here, we can easily start adding new diary entries. So we can click in here. We get a nice form. In fact, I'll zoom in just a little bit. So we get a nice form here with a pop-up calendar. It's all here. And you can select a date and then click on the entry headline, and there we go. Now, do you see those things appearing here? That is an HTML thing. That's not Trongate. That's basically the browser trying to be helpful. If that bothers you, there is a little fix, and to show you that, I'm going to open up my text editor. So let me open up, I'm using Sublime, and I'm going to open up the folder. So it's inside, for me at least, XAMPP, HD Docs, and Fitness app. Here it is here. Okay, so this is the Trongate app here, right? This is it. And if we have a look at modules, you'll see that we've got a module called Diary Entries. And in here there's a folder called Views and a file called Create. Now, if you take this entry headline, which is right here, you can see it's got a form name, a value, and an array of stuff, key value pairs actually. And all we have to do if we want to switch off autocomplete is a little comma, and we're going to just say autocomplete assigned to off. And if you save and refresh and have a little click here, now we don't get bothered by that thing. Pretty cool, pretty cool. So let's choose a date created. For the entry headline, I'll just say first day. Woke up feeling great. And here we go. I have no idea what I'm doing. Now for the entry body, let me just get a little help from Emmet. Now Emmet's a plugin that you can get free of charge. I'm just going to write lorem multiplied by 7 tab, and as you can see it gives me a whole bunch of sample text, which I'm just going to space out. Maybe just make a couple of little test paragraphs and whatnot, you know. Make it look as if it's something meaningful. I think that'll do, something like that. And I'm just going to select all of that, then backspace. And now I'm going to just paste this in, okay? So there we go. All right, that's the first entry there. Now if we go back to view all diary entries, create new diary entry record. By the way, if this body thing is a bit on the small side, you can easily go into the form text area thing, and you can see we've got another array, by the way. So it's very easy to just say comma, and then we're going to say rows is assigned to, there we go, and I'll just say 12. Save it, refresh, and you see how that made the body a bit bigger? Alright, so let's choose another date. I'll go here, and I'll say day 2. This is the greatest thing since JavaScript. Yeah, a little trick there for the YouTube algo, you know. Anyway, I'm going to paste in the entry body, click submit. There's 2 entries. Now let's view them, and we'll do just one more. Again, I'll just choose a date. I'll say, holy moly, I think I just broke the world record. Anyway, let's submit, okay? So, we now have 3 diary entries, and we've also got an admin panel. By the way, if you look on the top left hand side, you'll see that our navigation label is here, along with our icon if you added one. Pretty cool, right? Pretty cool. Another thing that we have as well, even though we never asked for it, we do have a really cool API manager here. If we go to the base URL, then API Explorer /diary entries. Hold on a second. It's API /Explorer. There we go. And you'll see that we've got a whole bunch of endpoints here. And yes, we can query them and everything. It's all here, and it's all fully documented. But we're not going to be using this today. Instead, what I want us to do is have a look at just diary _entries, right? And you're going to have a page that looks a little bit like this. Now, what I would like to do for this is fetch the entries from the diary and display them on a nice page, okay? So I'm going to go into the diary entries module here, and I'm going to create a little method. Remember, a method is just a function inside a class. I'm going to call it index. Now, let's fetch the records. So to do this, we can just say something like rows equals this. I'm going to call upon the model, which is part of the Trongate framework. I'm going to say get, and inside here I'm going to pass in the order by. So in this case it will be date created descending. Okay. Now, if we then say JSON rows, save it, and refresh, well, now you can see a summary of our 3 records here. This JSON thing is something that I made myself. It's kind of a bit like var dump, which comes with PHP, but as you can see, var dump's a little bit messy. So I thought it would be nice to make something that just looks kind of easy on the eyes, and it confirms that this thing is actually working. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're going to load up a template. Now Trongate comes with a couple of templates. In fact, they're inside this special directory here called templates. But we don't really need to go into this just now. All you have to do is we're going to say data rows. So we're building up an array, right? Is all of that stuff. Then I'm going to say data view file equals, and call it anything you want, like my diary, for example, anything at all. And then we're going to simply say this, calling upon the template. And we're going to have two arguments. The first argument is going to be the name of the template. In this case, I'm going to call it public. Now, Trongate has got a public template and an admin template by default. You'll see the public in just a moment. The second argument is going to be the data array. So I'm going to pass that data array into the template. Now let me save that and let me go into the views folder for diary entries. I'm going to make a new file called mydiary.php. And now we can maybe do a little section here. We can do an H1 with a class of text center. And we can just say something like my training diary. And if we just save this and refresh, you'll see that we've now got this super cool template here. And everything is contained within this template. Now, the nice thing about this is because we've passed in the rows, well, we can access the rows right here on the page. And just to prove that we do have them, we can say in PHP, JSON rows. And once again, you'll see that we do in fact have those 3 rows there. So what I'm going to do with these, I think I'm going to put them inside a table. So I'm using Emmet. I'm going to have a table and I'm going to call upon a table row with maybe a table heading. How am I going to do this? I tell you what, let's do that, and then I'll just say diary entries. Okay. Then I'm going to go into PHP. I'm going to say for each rows as row. Okay, so the idea here is that inside this for each loop, well, what we can do is we can close off PHP. We can go back in here. And then at this gap here, we can have a table row with a table cell and stuff to go here. All right. So hopefully that makes sense. Now let's just save it and let's refresh. Okay. So that's not too bad. Not too bad. You can see our table here is looking pretty cool, and we've got 3 rows for each of the diary entries. Notice, by the way, that we didn't have to worry about things like classes and IDs and stuff. Trongate has its own CSS library. Now, you don't have to use it, but if you do, it basically makes HTML look nice out of the box, so there's not really anything to learn, you know? So, that's kind of cool. I'm feeling good, and I hope you feel good too. What I'm going to do now then is I'm going to go into this thing here, and I think I'll have maybe an H2. And I'm going to go into PHP. I'm going to call row entry headline. Like that. Okay, now save it. Refresh. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Now above this, or below if you want, doesn't really matter. Maybe we'll do it below. We can have a paragraph. And of course, we can call upon the date created. Now if we go like this, row date created, we're going to get something like that, okay? Now, if you're happy with that, that's okay, but we can make it look a bit nicer if you want. And the way that we do that, the first thing we have to do is turn it into a Unix timestamp. So you can convert one of these into a Unix timestamp by saying string to time. So string to time, str to time, okay? And you can see that these are now Unix timestamps. Now, at the point when you've got Unix timestamps, you can then use the date function, which comes with PHP, and then you just describe how you want the date. So, for example, LJSFY, then comma, and our second argument is that timestamp. And now I'm going to just save, refresh, and there you go. Now, if you're wondering how I remembered all of this stuff, I have a YouTube video. It's about 15 minutes long. You only have to go through it one time, and you'll never have to look up this date stuff ever again. I'll leave a link in the description. Okay, so we've got 3 diary entries, and there we go. Now, I think the next thing we can add is another paragraph with a class. Let's call it text-write, and I'm going to have a link. So I'm going to echo anchor. We're going to go to diary entries /display, and then I'm going to join on the row ID, and I'm going to just add the text that says view. Okay, so if we save that and refresh, there we go. Alright, so that's now a link here. And so now I'm going to build a page where we can display the record. So if we click in here, you can see that it's attempting to display this page, right? But we don't have a method or anything here. So I'm going to go to diary entries again, make a little function up. I'll call it display. Now I'm going to pass in update ID as an argument. And what that means is if I echo update ID, it's going to just assume that we are referring to the third segment of the URL. Okay, now there is another way of doing this, just so you know. And the other way is you can say update ID is segment 3, and that will do exactly the same thing. Whichever one works for you, it's absolutely fine. I might as well stick with this since it's on the screen, okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to fetch a record. So to do that, I'm going to say record object is this, calling upon the model, and I'm going to call get where. Now all of this model stuff is covered in the documentation if you need it, but even if reading documentation is not your thing, it's very easy to open up model.php and just scroll down and you'll see some of the things that are available. For example, let me just go back here, get where, you know, and you can see what these things accept. Here's get one where, get many where. We've got a few variations, count. So by all means, have a look at that. It's pretty straightforward. And here we are. We're going to say get where, and we're going to pass in the update ID. Now, if we say var dump record object, save it and refresh, you'll see that we have an object. Look at the very top left hand side, okay? Now, if we happen to put in an invalid ID, let's say 88, right? So I'll add 88 to the URL. Well, then it just returns false. So what we could do is we could say if record object is false, then we can just send them back to the diary page. So we could say redirect diary entries, and it's as simple as that. However, if everything is okay, and if they get here, we know it's cool, okay? So there's not really any need to do an else statement, because again, if they get here, we know that they must be okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the record object into an array. Now, strictly speaking, you do not need to do this. You really don't need to do this. I'm just doing it because I kind of feel like it. So to do that, we can say data equals an array of record object. And when you say array inside parenthesis, it's going to take that object and turn it into an array. Now, just to prove that this really does work, we can say var dump data, save, refresh. Now, let me click onto one of these things again. And look at the top right. Do you see it? Or top left even. Do you see how it's now an array? There you go. So we turned our object into an array. Now, the reason why that's useful is because now we can say data view file equals, now call it anything you want. I'm just going to call it display. And then we can call upon our template. That's the public template. And we can pass in the data array. Remember that templates can accept an array of stuff. That's why I turned it into an array. Now, let me just go into views. This is views for the diary entries module. I'm going to have a new file called display.php. And I'm going to have a section and then an H1, maybe with text center. And perhaps we can just say something like, I don't know, diary entry. I'll figure it out in a minute. So let's just refresh, zoom out a bit, and that's that. Okay. Now, I've got it saying diary entry. Is that really what we want? Perhaps it would be better if we added the date. Now, keep in mind that we have passed in the record. So all of that stuff is available. In fact, we can even just say JSON data. Even the original array is available. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to say, let's see, how about if we go in here and we'll echo date, and I'll go with LJSFY. Remember this stuff? String to time, date created. All right, that looks pretty cool. And now I'm going to have the actual entry inside a card. This is something that comes with the Trongate CSS framework. Now, you don't need to do this. You can display it any way that makes you feel good. But I'm going to say .card and then tab. Then I'm going to say .card heading. And inside here, I'm going to echo the entry headline. And then down here, I'll have another div with a class of card body. And for the card body, I'm going to echo NL to BR. Now that's going to preserve those line breaks, right? And I'm going to chuck in entry body and save it. So refresh, and there you go. Kind of cool. Now, how about a little back button? We can do that for sure. So perhaps we could have it even upstairs if you want, or else here, anywhere at all. Perhaps maybe we'll have it here. Okay, so I'll just say anchor. We're going to go to diary entries, and I'll just say go back. Like that. Okay, now you can have it inside a paragraph. It might be good for spacing. And there you go. So now we've got a little link and it takes us back here. Now, by the way, If you want, you can turn the links into buttons. That's pretty easy. You can do that by passing in an array where class is assigned to button. And now you can see that go back is an actual button here. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Alright, so that's not too bad. Now I want us to look at the home page for this thing. So here's our home page, and it's not really doing too much. So let's figure out how this stuff works. If you have a look, let me just close this. Now have a look inside config.php. Okay. And if you have a look here, you'll see that we've got a default module of welcome, a default controller of welcome, and a default method of index. So if we look inside modules, you'll see, sure enough, that we've got a module that is called welcome. It has a controllers folder with a controller file, that's what we call this, called welcome. And sure enough, there is a method called index. So now you can see how this works, right? And what it's doing is it's just loading up a view file. Now obviously, if we echoed hello with a little die statement, well, obviously the page is not going to load. Also, just to state the obvious, if we said that the index or the default method is test, then if we said function test, echo, something like that, then sure enough, that would become our home page, okay? So I'm just giving you an idea of how that works. Now, we won't have it at test, we'll keep it at this index thing. But now, instead of loading up this view file called welcome, and by the way, do you see the views folder? Welcome.php, here it is. So that's what's giving us this blue page that says it totally works. But we can actually do a whole lot better than this. What we can do is get rid of all of this stuff. Get rid of all of this stuff. Now I've just got an ordinary section here. I'm going to save it. And inside this index method, I'm going to say data view module is welcome. Data view file is welcome. And then I'm going to say this. Let's load the template. Which template? Public. And we'll pass in the data. So now if I hit refresh, you can see that we've got our content here, but now it's within this nice template. Pretty cool, pretty cool. However, I think that we can do even better. So I'm going to go back to the desktop app and I'm going to click create new module. And I'm going to browse the module market. And from here, I'm going to go to design templates. Now at the moment, this is all brand new, but I know that Gavin has got 20 templates that he's about to add, which is really cool, you know. And thank you, Gavin. But there's a template called Powerhouse that I've added. I'm going to ask you to find Powerhouse. You can see some screenshots of what this looks like. Okay, so this is our template. And there's also, I think, a couple of reviews. And usually there's video lessons and stuff. In fact, if I show you another one. So here's a news module, for example. And you'll see, usually, you'll get screenshots. You'll get reviews. And sometimes even a YouTube video demo. So that you can see what you're getting before you actually download. Isn't that so much nicer than packages, by the way? Oh, and by the way, this is free, so don't worry about that, okay? So I'm going to go into templates, Powerhouse, and I want to get this template, and it is a free template. So I'm just going to click get, and it's going to download the template, and there we go. Now, you may have to create an account on the website to do that or sign in, but let me assure you, it's all free and nothing uncool happens. Anyway, we now have the template. Now, if we refresh this page, nothing happens. The reason for that is because this is a framework for building large-scale enterprise applications. We already have a diary management system that looks like this with an admin template. And when you start building large-scale apps, it's very normal to have maybe 7, 8, even 9 different templates. So what we have to do is tell the app that we want this page to use the fitness template, the Powerhouse template, as I've called it. So here's how we do that. Where we've got our template here, and where it says public, we're going to just type in Powerhouse. Save it, and refresh. And it's as simple as that. Now, if anybody was wondering, well, how did you know it was Powerhouse? The answer is, if you look at config themes, you'll see that we have a new theme that was added called Powerhouse. That's the name of the theme. And all of this happened automatically with the desktop app. By the way, I'm going to teach you how to make templates in a future video. It's really, really easy. I think you're going to love it. But that's us now with this really cool template. And by the way, it looks fantasticola on tablets and mobile devices and iPhones and everything. It's a nice design, I think, you know. It's also very fast loading. Now, we've got a thing here that says view my diary. We've also got some nice buttons here. So let's add in some kind of link to the actual diary. So to do that, I'm going to look inside the public folder. And inside the public folder, you'll see themes. And then you're going to see Powerhouse. Then you'll see a folder called Dark. And finally, Powerhouse.php. This is our HTML template. This is the one that we just downloaded, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the parts that say view my diary. Now, I might not get them all. There's a lot here, but I can see one here. And I'm going to have this going to diary entries. There you go. And you can see another one here that says view my diary. So again, I'll just say diary entries. In case you're wondering what those are, well, one of them is this big one. See this button here? We can click it, you see? And if we view this on a mobile device, well, that's actually a different button. And if we click view my diary here, it takes us to the page. So that's why there's 2 of those, okay? Now, how about if we do one of the buttons as well, the fancy ones, you know? So run about here where it says go to URL. I'm just going to say diary entries and save it. So now, by the way, see where it says tooltip text? You guessed it. We can change that to just say view diary. So save and refresh. And you see how it says view diary, and we can click on it. And there you go. Pretty cool, pretty cool. All right. Now, the other thing is we've got this nice template for the home page here, but we don't have that on the diary page, which is a bit of a downer. So what I'm going to do now is to address that, I'll go to modules, diary entries, and we'll have a look at this index thing here. Now at the moment, you can see that it's calling public. Let's change that to Powerhouse. We're going to save, refresh, and unfortunately, it has given us this home page again. So I'm going to show you how to sort that out. If you take a look at this Powerhouse HTML template, have a close look, and somewhere you'll see a comment that says page content start. Okay? And if you go down the page, you'll see a comment that says page content end. So what we're going to do is we're going to select all of that stuff between those two comments. I'm going to copy, do a little backspace, and then I'll just, I'll just say hello. Okay, now let me save it. And I'm going to take you back to the home page. And you can see that we've now emptied out the sort of center stage, let's say, for this app. You can see it says hello in the top left there. So what we're going to do then is, instead of saying hello, right in here, we're going to use PHP short tags and echo out template, : display, and then we're going to pass in the data and save it. Now, over on diary entries, you can see that it's calling a thing called My Diary. Now let's go into this My Training Diary. Actually, I'm on the wrong page. Forgive me, we're talking about the home page. So that's the welcome thing. That's the one. All right. So we've got a view file called welcome. Now, if we just refresh, you can see that congratulations, it totally works is here. However, if you still have that stuff inside your clipboard, you should be able to paste in, save, refresh, and now we have a real template that is dynamically replacing the content for the pages, you know. So if I click View My Diary, there it is, within the context of the fitness app. Now that table looks a bit crazy. So what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to go to this display thing here. And where we have this section, I'm just going to add in a class equal to container. And so there's, oh, do you know what? I'm on the wrong page. That was today's deliberate mistake of the day. Of course it's this one here. So I'm going to say class equals container. Alright, there we go. Okay. So that container thing brings it in, makes it a bit more narrow. Okay, so as we click into a record here, now we've got this, so we know how this works, right? As long as I don't get mixed up. So at the display part here, instead of calling the public template, we'll call Powerhouse. Save it, refresh, there you go. There you go. Okay, and again, we'll just say class equals container and bring that in a bit. Okay, so that's pretty much that. The only other thing I think before we finish is we'll do a little bit of formatting with the fonts and whatnot. So let's take a trip to Google Fonts. And when you get to Google Fonts, I'll just clear the decks here so that we've got a reasonably honest effort, right? But when you get here, I want you to go into categories and search for handwriting. Now you don't have to copy me, just pick any one that makes you feel good. I think I'm going to go with this Architect's Daughter one here. So I'm going to choose select this style. And where on earth is it? So select this style, view your selected families, there it is there. Now this is giving us a link that we can copy and chuck it in the top of the header section for the template. There you go. Okay, so I'm just pasting in that stuff from Google Fonts. And you can also see that it tells you how you apply this. So I'll copy that. And I'm going to do some styling just directly onto the template for the purposes of speed. So let's just say style, tab, and I'm going to say TH. How about a TD? Let's go with a card, maybe a card heading and a card body. So all of those are going to have that font family. Let's save. Let's go back, refresh. There you go. So do you see how the font looks a little bit like it's handwritten? Let's go back. And I think that we can probably do something with this. So let's say that if we've got TD with an H2, I'll just say that the font size is 24. Is that the right one? Or is that an H3? How is it I'm doing this again? It's an H2. Oh, it's a TD with an H2. That's what it is. Okay, so there we go. And I think that's looking pretty good. I do believe that this is looking pretty good. All right. So one more thing that I think I'm going to do that I just thought of is I'm going to search for subtle, I think it's called subtle patterns. Now I'll leave a link in this in the description, but it's going to take us to this site here, which has now been renamed to TopTal. And I want to have a look for a nice little pattern here. The navigation on this site is really awful. But if we click view all tags and go to paper maybe. Now here's lined paper. Okay, so I'm going to download this. And again, I'll leave a link in the description. You can see I had a little practice run earlier on. And I'm going to say fitness app. Now let's download it to the actual module. So I'm going into modules. Diary entries. I'm going to have a new folder actually inside assets. I'll have a new folder called images. Create it. And inside here, remember I'm saving into the actual module. Well, I'm going to save that lined paper. There it is. Okay. So, how does this go? Well, we can just say something like for TD and card body, I'm just going to say background image. Now I know that this is far down, so let me scroll up for you. So I'm just going to say that the URL, and the URL is going to be inside the diary entries underscore module. Then I'm going to go to images, lined underscore paper dot png and save it. And what happens now, hopefully, if we refresh, you can see that we've now got what looks like lined paper here. And there you go. Okay, so that's that. And I hope that you found this useful. Of course, if you want, you can also quite easily turn this into a button. The link here, you know how to do that, right? We just say comma, pass in an array with a class of button. It's as easy as that. And there you have it. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much. If you enjoy using Trongate, please do consider giving this framework a star on GitHub. Everything that we're doing is free. All we ask is, if you do like this, we would be really grateful if you could just give us a star on GitHub. That seems to be the metric by which people measure success of frameworks, you know. So anyway, thanks a lot for watching. And if you enjoy this kind of content, I hope you'll consider subscribing. Cheers.